Good day, everyone. Today, we'll explore one of the most beautiful and practical phenomena in physics, which is the interference. So, this chapter reveals how waves combine to produce patterns of brightness and color. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to see how interference helps us measure distances smaller than a wavelength and design optical devices used in everyday life. So this chapter is guided by the learning objectives. First is to consider interference of waves in space. Second is to analyze two-source interference of light. Third is to calculate the intensity of interference patterns. Fourth is to understand interference in thin films. And lastly is to use interference to measure extremely small distances. So each of these goals builds toward mastering how light behaves as a wave, which is a foundation for optics and modern physics. So to begin with, let's begin with these familiar insights. So why do soap bubbles show vibrant color patterns, even though soapy water is colorless? Second question is what causes the multicolored reflections from DVDs? And lastly, we will now look at optical effects such as interference that depend on the wave nature of light. So these effects arise because light waves overlap and interfere. The colors we see are not pigments, but results of constructive and destructive interference. So this chapter connects those everyday wonders to the physics behind them. So let's start with the wave fronts from a disturbance. So we can see here at figure 35.1 at the right shows a snapshot of sinusoidal waves spreading out in all directions from a source. So wave fronts are in which crest of the wave or the frequency separated by one wavelength. So the wave fronts move outward from the source or the S sub 1 at the wave speed v is equal to the product of frequency and velocity. So according to superposition principle, when two or more waves overlap, the resultant displacement at any instant is the sum of the displacement of each of the individual waves. So when a disturbance occurs, waves spread outward in all directions. Each circle represents a crest, which is a wavefront. So the superposition principle states that when waves overlap, their displacements add algebraically. This principle explains how interference patterns form when multiple sources emit waves simultaneously. So let's move on to the constructive and destructive interference. So at figure 35.2 at the right shows two coherent wave sources. So at letter A, we have two coherent wave sources separated by a distance 4 times the wavelength. Letter B shows the conditions for constructive interference in which waves interfere constructively if their path lengths differ by an integral number of wavelengths. So we have r sub 2 minus r sub 1 is equal to mass times the wavelength. For letter C, it shows the conditions for destructive interference, in which the waves interfere destructively if their path lengths differ by a half integral number of wavelengths. So we have r sub 2 minus r sub 1 is equal to the quantity of m plus 1/2 times the wavelength. So constructive interference occurs when the path difference is an integral number of wavelengths. So the crest meet the crest, producing bright regions. Meanwhile, destructive interference occurs when the path difference is a half integral number of wavelengths. So the crests meet the throats, producing dark regions. And this alternating pattern of brightness and darkness is the hallmark of interference. So we have here an interfering source, which is a one source. So this diagram shows circular wave fronts from a single source. As waves travel outward, each crest maintains equal spacing. When another source joins, overlapping fronts create regions of reinforcement and cancellation, which is the basis of interference. So we also have here interfering sources, which are two sources. So here we see two sources emitting waves simultaneously. The overlapping circles from a lattice of bright and dark regions. Each intersection represents a point of constructive or destructive interference. This visualization helps us predict where light will be bright or dim on a screen. So let's have the two-source interference of light. So it is shown at figure 35.5. Below right shows Young's double slit experiment with geometric analysis. So for letter A, it shows the interference of light waves passing through the two slits, and they are passing through those slits simultaneously. So for letter B, it shows the actual geometry as seen from the side. So in the interference of light waves, the bright bands where wavefronts arrive in phase and interfere constructively. So the dark bands where wavefronts arrive out of phase and interfere destructively. For the actual geometry, on the left side, in real situations, the distance or the R to the screen is usually very much greater than the distance between the slits. At letter C, it shows the approximate geometry. So we can treat the rays as parallel, in which case the path length difference is simply r sub 2 minus r sub 1 is equal to the distance sine theta, or the angle. So Young's double slit experiment demonstrated that light behaves as a wave. Monochromatic light passes through two slits, producing bright and dark fringes on a screen. So the constructive is given by the distance sine theta is equal to the product of mass times the wavelength. For destructive, it is given by the distance sine theta is equal to the quantity m plus 12 multiplied by the wavelength. And these equations describe the geometry of interference. So the experiment was revolutionary. It proved that light is not just a stream of particles, but a wave capable of interference. So we have here the interference from two slits. So there is a projection of two-slit interference onto a screen. The linear dimension of the separation of fringes obviously depends on the angle and the distance from the screen. So here, r is distance to screen, and d is separation of slits, and m is the order of the fringe. The fringe spacing depends on slit separation, the screen distance, and the wavelength. So This gives the position of the M bright fringe. If we increase the R, fringes spread out. If we increase the distance or the separation of slits, fringes gets closer. So this relationship allows precise measurement of wavelength using simple geometry. So we have here two slit interference. So as shown in example 35.1, given the measurements in the figure, what is the wavelength of the light? So let's apply the formula given by r is equal to 1.00 meters. The distance is equal to 0.200 millimeters, and the third order fringe at 9.49 millimeters. So let's find the wavelength. So deriving the formula, we will get the ym times d times rm. So substituting all the values, we have 9.49 times 10 to the power of negative 3 multiplied by 2.00 times 10 to the power of negative 4 multiplied by 1 and 3 is approximately equal to 633 nanometers. And that's a red light. This calculation shows how interference can determine wavelength with remarkable accuracy. So let's move on to the broadcast pattern of a radio station. So we have here in example 35.2, the radiation pattern of two radio towers 400 meters apart operating at 1500 kilohertz, oscillating in phase. In what direction is the intensity greatest? So interference isn't limited to light. Two radio towers 400 meters apart at 1500 kilohertz produce directional radiation patterns. Waves reinforce at certain angles. Here at 0 degree, positive or negative 30 degrees, and positive or negative 90 degrees. This explains why signal strength varies with direction and why antennas must be carefully positioned. So let's have the intensity in interference patterns or the phasor method. So intensity depends on the electric field amplitude. Using phasors, we add two waves with difference in their phase angle. So we have here two formulas. So maximum intensity occurs when the phase angle is equal to 0, and this means that waves perfectly in phase. The phasor diagram shows how vector addition of electric fields determines brightness. So how about the intensity in interference patterns or the geometry? So what is the phase difference at various angles from the slits? So think about the difference r sub 2 minus r sub 1. Whenever this path difference increases by a wavelength, the phase difference increases by 2 pi. And thus, the, uh, the angle is equal to the 2 pi equal to r sub 2 minus r sub 1 over the wavelength. But the path difference for a slit preparation is just r sub 2 minus r sub 1 is equal to the distance sine theta is equal to AD sine theta. So finally, then the intensity pattern is since the wavelength is equal to wave lambda sub 0 over n, or k is equal to nk sub 0. So phase difference relates to path difference. Thus, on the screen, intensity oscillates between bright and dark fringes. Each peak corresponds to constructive interference, each throw to destructive interference. So we have here interference sources, which is a simulation. So this simulation shows how overlapping circular waves from alternating high and low amplitudes. The graph above displays intensity variation, which is a visual proof of interference. It's a dynamic way to see how theory matches observation. So let's move on to the interference in thin films. Fundamentally, the interference is due to path length differences for two coherent sources. Any arrangement that causes such a path length difference will show interference phenomena as long as the figure 35.12 shown below uh, shows interference of an air wedge. So when light reflects from both surfaces rather of a thin film, path length differences cause interference. Some colors reinforce, others cancel, producing rainbow patterns on soil or soft films. So the air wedge diagram shows how geometry and film thickness determine color. So let's now have the phase shifts during reflection. So follow the text analysis of a thin film interference and phase shifts during reflection. Use 35.13 below. So phase shifts occur when light reflects between materials of different refractive indices. So where in fact no shift if reflection is from a faster medium, and half cycle shift if from a slower medium. These shifts must be considered when analyzing thin film interference because they affect whether interference is constructive or destructive. So let's have the wedge between two plates. So two plates forming a wedge create interference fringes. The spacing depends on wedge thickness and wavelength. By changing the medium, air or water, we alter fringe spacing, demonstrating how, how refractive index influences interference. So let's proceed with the Newton's rings. So, as shown in the figure 35.16, below illustrates the interference rings called the Newton's rings, resulting from an air film under a lens. Figure A shows a convex lens in contact with a glass plane, while figure B shows the Newton's rings in its circular interference fringes. So when a convex lens rests on a flat glass plate, an air film forms. Light reflecting from both surfaces produces concentric rings called the Newton's rings. The spacing reveals lens curvature and film thickness. These rings are used to test optical surfaces for precision. So how about using interference fringes to test a lens? So the lens to be tested is placed on top of the master lens. If if the two surfaces do not match, Newton's rings will appear, as in figure 35.17 at the right. Optical engineers use Newton's rings to test lens quality. If the test lens perfectly matches the master lens, rings disappear. Any mismatch creates fringes, mapping surface imperfections. This technique ensures lenses meet high precision standards. Now let's delve into the non-reflective coatings. So the purpose of the non-reflective film is to cancel the refracted light, reflected light as shown in figure 35.18 at the right. So follow example 35.7. Non-reflective coatings use destructive interference to cancel reflections. A film 1/4 wavelength thick mixed reflected waves have a cycle alpha phase, minimizing glare. This principle is applied in camera lenses, eyeglasses, and telescopes to improve clarity. So let's delve also in the Michelson interferometer. The Michelson interferometer is used to make precise measurements of wavelengths and very small distances. So follow the text analysis using figure 35.19 below. So the Michelson interferometer is a masterpiece of optical engineering. It splits a beam of monochromatic light into two pots using a beam splitter. So one way travels to a fixed mirror, the other to a movable mirror. After reflection, both rays recombine and produce an interference pattern. By adjusting the movable mirror, we can measure incredibly small changes in distance, even the fractions of a wavelength. This instrument was famously used in the Michelson-Morley experiment, which disproved the existence of the ether and paved the way for Einstein's theory of relativity. In modern times, Michelson interferometers are used in precision metrology, gravitational wave detection, and spectroscopy. So, to sum up, uh, we began with everyday examples of interference, like the soap bubbles. We also explored wavefronts, pulsar interference, and thin film phenomena. And another, we also saw how interference helps measure distances and test optical surfaces. So finally, the Michelson interferometer showed us how precision measurement relies on wave interference. So remember that interference is not just a visual effect, it's a cornerstone of modern optics and physics. So, to conclude, interference reveals the wave nature of light. So from soap bubbles to precision optics. So it's a cornerstone of modern physics. Understanding interference equips us to design better instruments and appreciate the beauty of wave phenomena. So let's go back to the main idea of this topic. So we were able to explore one of the most beautiful and practical phenomena in physics, which is the interference. So again, this chapter revealed how waves combine to produce patterns of brightness and color. So throughout the lesson, we were able to see how interference helps us measure distances smaller than a wavelength and design optical devices used in everyday life. So we were able to uh, determine interference of waves in space, also analyze two-source interference of light. We were able to calculate intensity patterns, study thin film interference, and then apply interference in precision measurement. So all those subtopics builds toward mastering how weight, how light behaves as a wave, which is the core foundation for optics and modern physics. So that ends our discussion. So I hope that you will be able to learn about interference and how is it related to the double slit experiment, since this double slit experiment is uh, a known uh, a known demonstration for the superposition principle, explaining how light behaves as a wave, and such that light creates an interference pattern according to superposition principle. And this topic can be applied also, or can be connected with wave function, in which wave function is a mathematical description on how to describe a quantum state of a particle, which is used in quantum mechanics. So interference is such a core principle of quantum mechanics. So we need to understand deeply more about interference and how light behaves as a wave itself in general. So that ends our discussion. Thank you for listening.